You know what I'm saying? That's what I only listen to God. I don't listen to nothing else. You know what I'm saying? Real shit. I only listen to God. And God got all the answers because it play out as synchronicities and correspondences and shit. So you don't have to worry about why something happened or why something didn't happen. All you have to do is worry about, you ain't even got to worry. That's your mistake. Your thoughts and feelings is purely used, only supposed to be used to interpret what's going on at the moment. Everything is in layers. We're making everything to mimic the spirit. So the spirit, your individual soul, solo spirit, created a spaceship. So that spaceship supposed to motherfucker mimic the spirit, which is your mind, supposed to mimic the spirit, stay light. And then the body supposed to mimic the mind. And the body is heavy and things of that nature. And a lot of times, y'all don't be, I had a motherfucker point. I need a motherfucker wrote it. But a lot of times y'all don't understand how to correlate those energies and shit like that. You have to be in full control. But a lot of times y'all mind be so lost into the body, both of these things be steering your spirit in different directions and shit. Both of these be steering your body, your whole, all these miscellaneous directions and shit. And for the most part, you get lost in the goddamn sauce because you don't know what train of thought to cling on. And certain train of thoughts, you know what I'm saying, lead to more holistic states than others. But that's how you know you're going a certain direction based upon the shit that's on your mind. The shit that's on your mind makes your spirit go in a certain direction because the shit on your mind is your spaceship. And your spaceship look at certain directions and go down that line based upon feeling comfortable, or go down that line of thought thinking that, okay, this is the way to go in some way. And a lot of times you'll meet a saddle priest down there because it's always based on a desire. And y'all don't be knowing what desires are from a broad scale based upon being lost in certain religions and shit. Sometimes, if you're spiritually inclined enough to understand this, a desire could simply be desiring not being in a vulnerable situation, desiring not being wrong about something. So you could be raised heavily, for an example, you could be raised heavily into Christianity and things of that nature. So the desire you have not to be wrong would turn you into a theologian, turn you into a person that's utilizing apologetics that's flunked out on the internet right now because of the desire to not be wrong about something that's lostness in the first place. But this is where you fail to realize desires themselves is what leads you to the shadow priest. Desires themselves is what leads you to destruction. And the shadow government, as above, so below, did their first spiritual system understanding the desires as far as tracking the water cycle that we're calling Venus. So they say this is the clearest way to hell. The very same thing that you love is the very same thing that can destroy you in some way. So going on that water cycle is how you get high. So y'all most high is correlated to Pleiades, a fixed star in the Taurus constellation, Bull, Baal, Canaanites, and it's El Elyon. And El Elyon is what the Greeks call it right now, the fixed star Alcyon. So if you was to go ahead and do your research on the fixed star Alcyon, what you're going to see is it's a collection of fixed stars around Electra, um, um, Aldebaran, all the little stuff that which is the solar plexus of the Orion constellation, all those core junctions and shit like that up there dealing with when we experience that on a micro scale to us, that's the Taurus season. You know what I'm saying? But in the sky, understanding how to encapsulate that energy, you got the nighttime of it, which would be daytime for us from our perspective, from our event. So that'd be Taurus. Then you have the daytime of it, where it'd be daytime for at, but dark time from our event, Libra and shit like that. That's the daytime of that water cycle. And then you got the exaltation of that water cycle, the 12th house, Pisces, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. And for the most part, this is where they're creating the concepts of having a key to hell. The key to hell is an allegory of the end of winter or the allegory of Pisces and things of that nature. Jesus sacrificing himself for others as a whole allegory on Libra and the fall and things of that nature. And then the whole story of worship and materializing and seeing where that leads, like Job and all this motherfucker shit, are all allegories to Taurus and things of that nature. So really, when you get into the concept of the New Testament and shit, it's a whole big Masonic occult practice on Pleiades slash Taurus Taurus, Libra, Pisces energy. So there's always going to be a correspondence with fishies, the bull, horns, um, motherfucking Ramesses, because you know that's getting ready. That's after Pisces. There's always going to be a correlation to motherfucking balance, being in dark, fight against dark and light. Because fight against dark and light, that's Libra. Even day, even night, Ma'at, and shit like that. The horns, bull, whatever like that, that's Taurus. Fishies, going to the water bearer, then and shit like that. I mean, coming from the water bearer, then the fishy, then Ramesses and all that shit. They're explaining Pisces in between Aquarius and Aries. So for the most part, the whole New Testament is giving birth to the new Messiah. And the new Messiah is an allegory to whatever Jew or Masonic person created that watchtower intellectual property to create another Messiah. Because remember, don't before you get lost in Messiahs and things of that nature, that's not the point. The point is the concept. So the concept of a Messiah is anytime a person use their individual solar plexus, that's or sun sign in astrology, or if you're just a spiritual person, your individuality to express a worldview about how to cater to our natures and get out of our lower natures. You could become like a Messiah, like, right? Or this is Messiah energy to a certain degree. So for the most part, any person that's already in the routine of oral tradition and running the world, first government was the covenant and religion and things of that nature, right? When a person come around, they name that next intellectual property of how to handle a virtue from that person that's running the world and that group of people at the moment, they call it a name. This is how we get like Jacobs and all this motherfucking shit and things of that nature. Like you can still see that practice being done today when it comes to anytime somebody in NASA or something like that come up with a new hypothetical, they would name that satellite after them. You know what I'm saying? So these star constellations, aka satellites that they threw up there that have been discovered in the 1600s because they threw them up there and tell you it's discovered. Every star is named after a person. So basically it's trying to tell you that the stars is your mind, and to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. And people trying to make reality out of what's in our mind. And for the most part, this is what makes them start throwing up satellites and all that motherfucking shit. But at the same time, these are things that we're creating from the inside out. So keep that in mind also, and ground that in your mind so that could be a normal basis. So you can start developing other knowledge and not be still get some other form of information, then they kind of throw you off from what I just told you. Because really, I'm just showing y'all how to actually see life. It ain't what you see, it's how you see it. Didn't nobody come up with nothing that you don't have the ability to come up with. Because this is shit that we all supposed to know as a 3-year-old anyway. 3-4-year-old anyway. It is motherfucking shit. And we already be doing these things. And for you to even be initiated, that's a story about how you got here. You know what I'm saying? That's a story how you got here. It ain't a story about you initiating to go somewhere. These motherfuckers came up with a system of figuring out, oh, this is what we doing, so let's come back here. You know what I'm saying? But when we come back, let's rule. So mummification is basically learning how to die with a desire. So before you die, there's a whole bunch of Masonic rituals in the 360-degree Masons and shit like that. There is a such thing as 360-degree with 365-degree Mason and shit like that, where only thing you're learning how to do is that moment you die or you get ready to kill yourself, you got a strong mentality, a golem. And for the most part, it's going to build as a spiritual ability once that fade. And then once you create another awareness, mind and body, you have that same ability. And then that ability come in a different organ, a different race, but you'll be able to spark the same intentions. You see what I'm saying? And then for the most part, due to your social security card and this, that, and third, the rabbis or the spiritual leaders within the government that's running the world at the moment to be like, oh, we got them, we got them, we got Saint Michael, we got them again. It's in this child, it's in this race, it's in this. You know what I'm saying? That's how they do the goddamn shit. So all stories is about how we got here, just a anthropomorphized concept. That's how they make Zachariah Simpson, Osmosis Jones. So even stories about mummification back in Egypt and things of that nature. It wasn't about people mummifying themselves and going to an afterlife or things of that nature. It's an as above, so below. if you practice having a whole bunch of guilt or regret or responsibilities on your mind before you die, you create a heavy mentality, and that heavy mentality is a whole bunch of this world. So you'll go through a purgatory too, but it's a whole bunch of this world, and then you only have the abilities to come back down here and have those same intentions and shit. So when you practice as above, so below, you got to practice faith with works. This is the starting of the creation of what practices is, and shit like that. So as far as like practices to correspond, there is no such thing as a tradition or a practice that don't got something to do with Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, aka a sun transition, bitch. There is no tradition that don't have anything to do with the sun transition. So if you claiming you're part of a race that got traditions, you're going to have to prove to me that the tradition is not based on a sun transit or specific times of the day and a year. And that's the only way I'm going to believe that you're just not copying an updated version of what the shadow government is doing now. That's why I don't understand what people, like even religious people like Christians and things of that nature, they try to think that Islam and shit is, no, Christianity is the same shit updated. That's why you can have certain people make arguments saying shit like Christianity always been here even before it was called Christianity. That's not a good thing to say. Like people, they in their mind, they thinking that's a good thing to say because they got biases and shit like that. But what they fail to realize is they're giving credence to the shadow government. They're basically saying that there was a way a shadow government knew how to rule way before the name that we're lost in arguing about it now, which is Christianity and shit like that. That's basically what people are saying. But because if they want to argue with you with some 2,000-year-old argument or some historicity shit, they can't prove to you somebody got some power that's different than the way we use our mind. And when you understand any book, you're gonna see the actual correspondence that is pointing to things in our mind for them to even understand it, to write it. So all these made up stories about us looking at it like history, and these people who made stories about what our mind is doing, everybody who argue for these things like actual people did these things is fools. Where it's an allegory to what we all do, what we all have the ability for. But y'all don't understand that and things of that nature. So y'all start saying y'all real Hebrew Israelites. What the fuck do that even mean? That's just like somebody 2,000 years from now saying I'm a real American. And what the fuck that got to do with your goddamn race? And if y'all only argument is jailman and jailwoman knowledge, well, the Bible describes y'all people, and y'all want to claim that people, the Bible is describing a mind state. Why do you want to accept a cursed mind state? I don't get it. You already looking at it wrong, and then you practicing witchcraft on yourself. And these be individuals that's starting to claim they're intellectuals and shit. You're not intellectual because you're mentally retarded. You're not an intellectual because you can make up arguments about how we all need to come together by accepting each other's bullshit and religions. That's a mental illness. You're not no intellectual because you can show somebody you know how to put together a scripture better than somebody else know how to put together. That's a mental illness. You trained by the shadow government real good, where you could use a language to make you intellectualize something, to put pieces together in other portions of the logic in order to formulate a construct to make you think that this is what it means to be scholarly. You a goddamn fool at this point. In your mind, you can only think, well, what are we supposed to do? What about my frog? How are we supposed to communicate? So you just showed me as Archangel Uriel, you, your mama, your great grandmama, great crackheaded ass grandpa, none of y'all need to be claiming or crying for liberation or respiration, because none of y'all never had power. You got the sheep mind. You don't got the spiritual power occult mind to be like, well, I'm about to use they shit and transmute it if I ain't about to sit here and waste my time trying to change other people's minds so we can make our own language and go into the actual concept of doing it, not just making it up like, oh, well, they made up languages because we got voices and shit like that. No, there's an actual routine to the thing. You got to create a hieroglyphic. You got to understand this mean masculine, this mean feminine. Curve, anything round is feminine. Multiple. Line, masculine, straight. You have to understand internal natures first. And if you ain't even wise like that, don't even be trying to lead nobody. You're just going to lead to people doing the same thing you doing. Y'all going to kill each other. Y'all going to rob from each other. Y'all going to steal from each other. And it gets nowhere fast. So none of y'all got the good of their minds. So it baffles me at times as Archangel Uriel when motherfuckers be out here claiming they intellectuals and all this shit and sources and language and Greeked up and Hebrewed up, and the shit that come out y'all mouth don't even be the starting of anything. It's just the retardedness. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like, what the fuck do people be even lost in? What? Thanks so much for the donation. Bank Knots, you said people say they talk